Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome back to my course Industrial Biotechnology. In the last lecture I tried to cover the alpha amylase. Alpha amylase appears to be the very useful enzyme in the industry, particularly in the food processing industries. Particularly we have seen that brewing industry during malting process it produces the amylase and protease, and this helps in the mashing process for the solubilization of starch and protein. Now today I want to discuss the high fructose corn syrup, which is very much useful for the industry, particularly Western country. They use this for confectionery industries, that most of the confectionery industry they use the high fructose corn syrup. And as the term deals with corn is kind of food products that we have, and this corn contains mostly the starchy material, and this is special type of corn, and this starch we, with the help of alpha amylase and glucoamylase, we convert it to glucose, and finally the glucose is converted to fructose with the help of the enzyme glucose isomerase. So this is the main purpose of converting glucose to fructose, is that the fructose is 10 times sweeter than glucose, and that is why it is mostly used for the diabetes patient. And one important reason why of using the fructose, that fructose at low temperature it doesn't crystallize, particularly when we talk about the different medicinal tonic, that usually that is we use some kind of sweetening agent, and if we use the glucose, and usually the medicinal tonic comprises of some amino acids, some vitamins. So those are things that those are very susceptible for the temperature. If we increase the temperature, the denaturation of vitamins and amino acid will take place. So that is usually recommended that should be stored under low temperature, particularly in the fridge. You should store it. Now if we have a high glucose concentration, then if we keep it at a low temperature, we know sugar, that glucose at low temperature is crystallizes out. We will find in the tonic lot of crystals formation is there. So that is undesirable. That is why that most of the pharmaceutical industry, for the preparation of medicinal tonic, it is recommended to use fructose in place of glucose. So today I want to share with you how the high fructose corn syrup is produced by the industry, and detailed information about that. The high fructose corn syrup is a sweetener made from corn starch that has been processed by glucose isomerase to convert some of its glucose into fructose. Now also we call it glucose fructose or isoglucose or glucose fructose syrup. As a sweetener, high fructose corn syrup is often compared to granulated sugar, but manufacturing advantage of high fructose corn syrup over sugar include it is easier to handle and most cost effective. High fructose corn syrup is first marketed in the early 1970s by the Clinton Corn Processing Company together with Japan Agency of Industrial Science and Technology, where the enzymes were discovered in the year 1965. The enzymes, as I pointed out, 3 different enzymes take part in this process. One is alpha amylase, and the glucoamylase, and the glucose isomerase enzyme. Now the high fructose corn syrup is a combination of same sugar but in the different ratio. As for example, 40-58, 55-45 fructose to glucose ratio, and it is made from cornstarch that is chemically altered using the enzyme. So this combination we get by enzymatic conversion process. Table sugar or sucrose is made of two chemical sugar unit, 50-50 fructose and glucose. So we consider, we call that sugar is made of two monomers. The one is glucose, another is fructose. And if we hydrolyze, and the enzyme that is responsible for the hydrolysis of glucose, that is invertase enzyme. That invertase enzyme that can hydrolyze this sugar to glucose and fructose. Now, high fructose corn syrup 42, it contains 42% fructose and 53% that is glucose. It is used in the confectionery product. High fructose corn syrup 55, it is made of 55% fructose and this is 40-5% glucose. It is also used in the processed food. High fructose corn syrup 90, it is 90% fructose and 10% glucose. It is blended with high fructose corn syrup 42 and 52. So we can blend it to convert the high fructose corn syrup 42 to high fructose corn syrup 55. Now, if you look at the history of high fructose corn syrup, in the late 1950s, scientist Clinton Corn Processing Company, as I mentioned before, in Iowa, USA, tried to turn glucose from corn starch into fructose, but the process was not scalable. Now, in 1965 to 70, the Takasaki and Japanese National Institute of Advanced Industrial Science and Technology developed a heat stable glucose isomerase enzyme from yeast. Then xylose isomerase enzyme from yeast. Then 1967, Clinton Corn Processing Company obtained the exclusive license to a manufacturing glucose isomerase derived from Streptomyces bacteria and began the shipping as early version high fructose corn syrup in February 1967. Now, 1983, FDA approved that high fructose corn syrup as generally recognized as safe, and that decision reaffirmed in 1996. So this has been approved by the Food Product Association for the human use. Actually, this is permitted. Now, if you look at what is the useful property of high fructose corn syrup, first it is highly soluble, less likely to crystallize. As I told you, since it contains the fructose, so even at low temperature, no crystallization, no sugar, precipitation of sugar or glucose will take place. Now, hygroscopic keeps the bakery product moist for increase the shelf life. This is a high osmotic pressure that discourages the microbial growth. Now, here I want to point out, if you increase the sugar concentration, the osmotic pressure increases, that will not encourage the growth of bacteria. The contamination problem will greatly reduce. And liquid is easy to blend and transport. This is the one and less expensive. And this is the corn, you can see this is the corn that is used for the production of high fructose corn syrup. Now, we know that glucose, fructose and sucrose, so this is the hexose sugar, both are hexose sugar, both having the glucose and fructose has same empirical formula, that is C6H12O6. Now, if this is both glucose and fructose. But if you look at sugar, it will be something different. 12H22O5 O11. Actually, this is sugar. Now, sugar, I told you, when hydrolysis reaction, always one molecule of water is required. It produces 2 moles of 12O6. Now, it comprises of both glucose. This is the glucose and fructose unit. Now, if you look at the glucose, they have aldehyde group, and in case of fructose, they have the ketone group. And when they combine, it looks like this. This is the sucrose molecule, and this is what I told. This is 10 times sweeter as compared to glucose. Now, cornstarch made from inert germ layer or outer husks of the corn or maize is the key ingredients for corn syrup. The natural enzyme alpha amylase is first added to the mixture to break down the oligosaccharides. I think in the last lecture I tried to point out how the alpha amylase act on starch molecule, and I told you it randomly attack what is the starch molecule? Starch is the polymer of glucose. Now, it can be available in 2 different forms, either amylose and amylopectin. Amylose is a straight chain, I told you yesterday, and amylopectin, they have both straight as well as the branch chain. And the straight, when it is straight chain in the amylase, it has alpha 1,4 glucosidic linkage. Now, when it has the branch chain, then it has both alpha 1,4 and 1,6 alpha 1,6 linkage. So, that is the thing that we have, and alpha amylase is very much active in degrading this, randomly attack this molecule. But as compared to beta amylase always act close to the non-reducing end of the sugar, and it releases mostly the maltose, what we call dimer. The dimer means 2 glucose unit. They combine together with the help of alpha 1,4 linkage. Now, this is alpha amylase was added to the mixture to break down into oligosaccharide. Next enzyme, the glucoamylase, is added to break down the oligosaccharides into glucose. Now, glucoamylase enzyme also required the oligosaccharide. Most of the oligosaccharide that usually comes in the starch, usually this is the remain in the insoluble form, that will be becoming solubilized when it produces the oligosaccharide, and this glucoamylase, when acts on oligosaccharide, produce the glucose, and this glucose directly converted to converted to fructose with the help of the enzyme, what we call glucose isomerase enzyme. It can convert the mixture comprising of 50 to 50% glucose, 42% fructose, and trace of other sugar. Now, if you look at how industrially we produce this high fructose corn syrup, is very important. This is the corn, and you know, as far corn is concerned, there is 2 type of corn. One is sweet corn and another starch based corn. Now, genetically we can modify the corn starch, and we can get more starch content rather than the soluble sugar content. So, this is the starchy molecules that we have, and this milled cornstarch slurry we first treated with alpha amylase, then we get the dextrin slurry where we have oligosaccharide, and then it is treated with amyloglucosidase enzyme, and then it produces the sugar, this glucose molecule, what we call saccharide syrup, and then we filtered or deionized or clarified. This glucose syrup contains about the 50% of glucose, and then we use the glucose isomerase enzyme to convert the glucose to fructose. We get high fructose corn syrup, 90%, 42%, or 52 or 40%. So, this is how high fructose corn syrup is produced by the industry. Now, production of high fructose corn syrup is the process of catalytic reaction of enzyme. I don't like to spend more time on it. Now, Another block flow diagram is given here to have the clear-cut concept on this process. The cornstarch consisting of amylose and amylopectin. I told you the starch always available in two different forms. One is called amylose, another is amylopectin. Now when we hit the chemicals that in presence of alpha and beta amylase, we know the alpha amylase they are active at 460 degrees centigrade, and they require calcium ion that increase the thermostability of the enzyme to a great extent. We get the dextrin or maltodextrin. Then we add the glucoamylase enzyme to get the glucose syrup, and then we add the glucose isomerase. This column immobilization I told you. Then when we get that the glucose isomerase enzyme, we can immobilize it on a particular column. That that collagen membrane, I can say collagen membrane. We can use the collagen membrane. We have the, suppose we have this collagen membrane, we can cut into different pieces, and then we can make in the form of bag, a small bag like this, and we can just fold it, we can make it back like this. Then with the heat we can seal this side, we can seal this side. Then this side is open, we can put the powder of this glucose isomerase enzyme, and by heat we can seal it. And then this we can stack one after another here. We can put this material one after another here. This we can pack this reactor like this. Then we pass the glucose solution from this, from the bottom, and at the top we can get the fructose. I think when we discuss the reaction kinetics and the reactor analysis, we try to solve one problem by how to design the height of the immobilized column to convert glucose to fructose. So please refer that lecture, and you will find that we already talk about that, how you determine what should be the height of the column to get the desired amount of conversion of glucose to fructose. So this is we can produce high fructose corn syrup 90, high fructose corn syrup 55, high fructose corn syrup 42. Now if you look at another schematically, it can be represented like this kind of process flow diagram. The raw starch we comes here in the tank. In the tank, first the liquefaction takes place. I told you the liquefaction is taking place by the enzyme alpha amylase and beta amylase. Then we get the oligosaccharide, and then oligosaccharide, then we use some kind of the glucoamylase enzyme to form the glucose. Then we pass through the filtration to remove the insoluble material. Then we add some kind of carbon refining. We know the activated charcoal that remove the color, that used as a bleaching agent. Then you pass it through the ion exchange rays, that column, and then light evaporation to concentrate the liquor, and it is coming as a feed. Then we have isomerase, this the immobilized column where we immobilize the isomerase enzyme. We pass this here, and then we get fructose. Again we do the carbon refining. Again we pass through the ion exchange the column, and again we do the evaporation, and we cool and storage. We get the product high fructose corn syrup. This is largely used in the Western country, and that is in practice, and that is, I told you, this is used in the confectionery industry to a great extent. Now the reaction is like this. The glucose that converted, I told you the glucose is containing one aldehyde group, and fructose contains one ketose. This is called aldose, this is called ketose. So it has the ketone group. So this is with the help of glucose isomerase enzyme, glucose is converted to fructose. So here it is 70% as sweet, 75% as sweet as sucrose, but 160% as sweet as sucrose. This is how they are differ from each other. Now why do the food manufacturer use it? That is the question that we have in our mind. The first reason is that it is the cheaper raw materials, because corn, because if you look at the Western country, they have a lot of, that a high every year they have lot of excess amount of corn production that they have. So it is since they have the high amount of corn production, so it is the cheaper raw materials. So since it is cheaper, so the cost of the high fructose corn syrup also will be cheaper, because any kind of product cost, I told you, it also depends on the cost of the raw materials. Now, cheaper than sugar, as I pointed out, lower manufacturing cost, easy to transport, because it is liquid. We can easily transport. Even if we want to transport by pipeline, that also can be done, because I told you even at low temperature there is no crystallization take place. The fructose never crystallizes at the low temperature. This is the added advantage that we have with the fructose. And flavor enhancement for both sweet and spice flavors, the baked goods, then fruit fillings, tomato product, canned fruits and beverage. They use as additives here, both as a sweetener. They use in the baked goods. We have in the day-to-day life we use lot of baked goods. Then fruit fillings and tomato products. Like tomato products, we have ketchup, we have some other tomato sauce that we have, and then canned fruits we have. In the canned fruits also, we know those who are involved with the canning product, they know that how the canned fruits production take place, because this usually take in a syrup, and then we that the fruits that is we put in the syrup, and then we seal the can, and then we sterilize that, so that you can preserve the fruits for longer period of time. Because why we keep the syrup? Because with syrup, the reason is that sweetener to maintain the taste of the fruit products. So fruits are usually sweet in taste. That is why we use the syrup. Then enhances the moisture control, retard the spoilage, enhance the texture and extent of product freshness of baked goods, granola, breakfast and cereal bar. Because this is different cases, different food products largely used this high fructose corn syrup. Now, why do the food manufacturer use it? Because as I pointed out, one important factor is that it doesn't crystallize. Because I told you, if you use the glucose at low temperature, the solidification of glucose will take place. Usually food products we usually store at low temperature, and high solubility, this is one of the reason, and browning, this is another reason, and provided greater stability than sucrose. That is why we use this. Then which product use high fructose corn syrup? This is, we have baked goods, yogurt, we have spaghetti sauce, we have ketchup, condiment, salad dressing, beverages, granola, breakfast, cereal bar, canned and frozen fruits, and frozen beverage concentrate. So there are different fruit products we use. This high fructose corn syrup is largely used by the industry. And Western country, in our country, we don't have much of use of high fructose corn syrup, but some places we might be using. But in the Western country, they largely use high fructose corn syrup. And though, because in the foreign country they use, though in our country also now we are using the lot of canned fruits we are using. So in the foreign country, they are using the canned food long before. Because I told you what is the purpose of using the canned food? Because suppose most of the fruits, they are seasonal. Seasonal means they are available in a particular season. Now if you want to use as for throughout the year, So you have to preserve that fruits and vegetables. So naturally canned food is largely used, and the added advantage of this is that we are not using any kind of preservative in it. When we use any kind of preservative, it has some kind of detrimental effect to our health. So when you produce the canned food, maybe when you heat it, some of the loss of vitamins and other is there, but we are not using any kind of chemicals, so side effect will not be there. So this is the reason why we use, and this is the nutritional value of 100 grams of high fructose corn syrup that is given here. You see that the energy content is about 1176 kilojoule, and this carbohydrate is 76 gram that we have. We have dietary fiber and fat contents, and protein contents is not there, because mostly in the high fructose corn syrup we convert the starch present in the corn, that we convert it into the fructose. That is the thing that we have. Then we have this, it contains the water, significant amount of water. Then riboflavin, that is vitamin B2, and niacin, that also contains pantothenic, vitamin B6, folic acid, vitamin C, calcium, iron, magnesium, phosphorus, potassium, sodium, and zinc. So you can find out lot of materials it has, and it has lot of food value, because not only it contains the glucose and fructose, but also it contains the other ingredients, because since we are producing it from the corn starch, and corn starch it is an agricultural product, and it contains other trace element which is very much useful for our health. And now in conclusion, I want to tell that high fructose corn syrup is largely used by the Western country, and it has also some kind of side effect, because high amount of high fructose corn syrup also has some kind of detrimental effect on our health. So everything we know that most of the food product also, if you take a very high amount, it has some kind of bad effect on our health. So the small amount, it doesn't have much of bad effect on our health. It can be safely used. So already the Food Product Organization, they recommended this is a safe product. And I told you the high fructose corn syrup largely used by the Western country as the sweetening agent for the confectionery industry. I told you not only used in the confectionery industry, but also used for the production of different food products. So this is all about the high fructose corn syrup. Thank you very much.